Hey everybody, it's Tuesday. Not starting to him and talking back quite yet because I wanted to give you a comprehensive view on Dragon Age the Veilguard. Now, full disclosure, somebody paid me through Patreon Coffee to review this game, to play it and let them know my honest opinion of it. So I streamed some on Twitch and then I stopped. Played it off camera because more and more I got the sense this is not a game to watch. This is a game to play. And that opinion actually got me a new hater who blew up and insisted I harmed him because I was like, I'm not interested in talking to you about this unless you've played the game. Because in my opinion, you cannot get a sense of what this game does by watching somebody's streams, by, reading stuff, by watching videos. It is a game. It is a good game, not just a good story, and it's intended to be played. Hence my opinion. And so that's kind of the TLDR. I'm going to avoid spoilers as much as possible. No, I may have a different idea of a spoiler than you do. I'm going to show some gameplay from very, very early in the game. If even something like, oh, this character is in the game is a spoiler to you, don't watch. But I don't consider the character roster a spoiler. I actually think one of the mistakes that EA and BioWare made with this game is they didn't introduce the characters enough. Sort of who they are, where they're from, because the characters are definitely a strong point in this game, but there's more than that. Now, I'll do the help support this channel and then get right into it. All right. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/LeannaK. You will see another link in this video. It's a link to a ticket page for an event I'm a part of. We're doing an Unbirthday Alice in Wonderland themed event in March. This is the beginning of me putting on events to help people get out of the house, tailored to meeting new people and actually, not making that a completely horrible experience. More on that on Wellness Wednesday tomorrow. Let's get into the Veilguard. Now, again, this video that I took, I will be in the corner. I will be like over here again. This is very, very early in the game. The complete roster isn't even unlocked. This is Lucanus's recruitment mission. So here we go. I am playing and I've got the volume way, way down on the game audio because this is a very chatty game, which is great for playing, but not great for talking over. So we're in something called the Ossuary. We are fighting the Venatori, which is a short version, a cabal of evil mages centered in Tevinter. Now, what are all these things? Doesn't really matter. You'll learn as you go. I am playing as a Qunari warrior here. Yes, you can actually be a Qunari in this freaking game as opposed to Inquisition. And I've captured this. This is on the second hardest difficulty. And my first tip for this game, if you have played God of War or Elden Ring and like the challenge of God of War or Elden Ring, do yourself a favor, play on the harder difficulties. I played through the third one up, so sort of some challenge. It was easy, my first playthrough. I don't know if rogues are just super overpowered or what, but this is my fighter. This is my second playthrough. I deliberately made a big dumb Qunari Grey Warden so I can make bad decisions. And you'll see the combat is challenging. This is one of the puzzles. But yeah, if you play on the higher difficulties, you actually have to use strategy. And I really enjoyed that because one of my big complaints with the Dragon Age franchise, which I was a huge fan of before Inquisition, is the combat kind of sucked. The combat does not suck in this game. It is very much Elden Ring meets God of War meets Mass Effect with the squad commands and the pause bumper. But it's fun. And that's the most important thing with the combat. There isn't like periods of the deep roads, though near the end of the game, they throw a lot of enemies at you. I really think you lose something playing just on story mode because the combat actually teaches you some of the characters' strengths and weaknesses that help you with some of the choices in the game. And the choices are meaningful. I'm really, really happy with the way they did choice in this game. I found Baldur's Gate 3 very edgelordy. You can just ruin your day with some of the choices in these games. Much like Dragon Age Origins, all of the major choices either equally make sense or equally don't make sense. I find a choice near the beginning that hasn't been made yet in this playthrough. I deliberately did that to not spoil anything. But a choice at the beginning has the same problem as an early choice in The Witcher 2 does for me. You don't know enough about the world if you're going in cold. Here's a glitch. These are rare, but that enemy glitched. It was kind of funny that happened on a captured playthrough. My streak continues. This game's fairly bug-free, so that was really funny that happened while I was capturing. But you know that arbitrary choice of The Witcher 2 or Yorva Path, Roach Path, and it affects the rest of the bloody game? It's not quite as bad in Dragon Age the Veilguard, but I did feel like the choice was for experienced players. I don't know why you'd pick one and not the other, unless you're playing as a particular faction. But if you're a new player, it's a jump ball. You don't know enough about anything. It's just a random choice that affects the rest of your game. Now, again, not as badly as The Witcher 2, but still a little irritating. The roughest part of Veilguard is the very beginning, and that is a tragedy. Now, I possibly played the messiest damn faction beginning in the whole thing. I played as a veil jumper, and it's broken in places with the dialogue. I've also found that the male Rook voices are better at the funny or the fun options, the comedy mask options in the dialogue wheel. I still hate the dialogue wheel, but I found that the male voice acting is better on that so far. But this time around, like I said, I'm playing as a Grey Warden, and its opening is a lot more polished. I didn't notice any obvious dissonant moments. So if you want to be less frustrated off the top, play as a Warden, because it feels like sort of the BioWare canon option, especially since you're going to be spending a lot of time rolling around in Blight. And if you spent as much time in Dragon Age Origins as I did, I believe I put like 300 hours into Dragon Age Origins. The idea of rolling around in Blight, even though they've made like a narrative reason that it doesn't automatically taint you forever, was weird to me. There are deliberate story-driven changes to lore in this game. They are back to the Qunari. They're colloquially called the Qunari, but then there's a codex entry that says, no, if you are a follower of the Qun, you are Qunari. If you are a Qunari race, what most people call the Qunari, born outside the Qun, you are a Vashath. If you are actively, rebelling against the Qun, you are a Tal Vashath. That still holds, but everybody calls them bloody Qunari anyway. which bugs me because that's like calling, that's like being like, all Arabs are Muslim or all Muslims are Arabs. There are Arab Christians, there are non-Arab Muslims. It drives me bonkers. So you're not imagining that if you're confused. They also interchange certain other things at times, but overall, the world building is very good. I won't get too much into that because avoiding spoilers is a little difficult when you get into the nuts and bolts of that. I'll be doing other content later on, focusing on specific things like, Tosh and non-binary characters. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about the characters overall. They're fantastic. They are the best set of characters since Origins. They are all extremely likable. Some need more of a chance to grow on you than others. But by the end, I love them all. It is definitely a chaotic to neutral good game. You can play as lawful, but your character of Rook is hardwired as a rebel that makes unpredictable choices. So it's sort of a chaotic good playthrough, which, you know what? I'm okay with. I'm okay with these games having a hardwired narrative because I'm one of those people, you cannot get a tabletop experience in a computer game. You can't. This combat, fun. You can't have this experience in a tabletop game, right? It's a bunch of dice rolling. So you want these cool execution style kills in a game and run around playing dungeon crawler, you play a video game. Whereas if you want open-ended, play whatever character you want, do whatever you want, drive your DM crazy, then, play tabletop. It's fun. I like both. But, yeah, they definitely go for you are the good guys. And that's really important because the narrative and some of the characterizations do get very, very nuanced. It would be very, very hard for me to pick a party favorite. My absolute favorite character in the entire game is Manfred the Skeleton Butler, who's attached to Emmerich, who's one of the magic users in it. But they're all great. They're all great. Davrin's great. Balara's great. Nev is great. Tosh is great. They're all great. Lucanus is great. It's really hard for me to pick a favorite. They're all different. They're all developed. They're all nuanced. And all of their loyalty mission choices, one way or the other, make sense. I was surprised at how hard some of the decisions were because I saw reason one way or the other. Much like, when I played through Dragon Age Origins, the Alistair Loghain choice. I was like, it's gonna kill me to choose Loghain over Alistair, and it did. But wow, super rewarding to do that. It was good. And Veilguard has a lot of that too. Some choices will rip your guts out, but then there's a payoff afterwards. Super well done. That is what people were talking about when they're saying BioWare has returned to form in terms of storytelling. Now, one of the things that Inquisition suffered from, and even Dragon Age 2. Well, Dragon Age 2 suffered from a lack of stakes. Inquisition suffered from a villain who was sort of only kind of there. Corypheus was okay, but it was kind of a mess, right? Whereas with Veilguard, you've got... BioWare is doing John Arenicus and Bodhi again, you know, the Baldur's Gate 2 villains. You have Elgernon and Gillenane. What? Don't worry about it. I called them Rosencrantz and Guildenstern for the first, like, 20 hours of play. But basically, they're old enemies of Solas's who are back. Shit's going down. It's the stakes of origin with the interesting anti-hero angle that they tried to do with Corypheus but didn't quite get there. And so you've got Solas, who is sort of Hannibal Lecter meets the Joker in this. It works. It works. Solas is a very, very complex, well-developed, consistent character, and it is good. And the endings you can get for the end of the game all make sense. And there are sort of better endings and less good endings, but which one's which is gonna depend on what you think about a lot of things. Now, I was always a Solas stan. I thought he was one of the best characters, if not the best character, for the party members in Dragon Age Inquisition. And the stuff, when you build the character at the beginning, if you haven't played yet, be very, very careful about the story so far options. There are 3 options you can take off the top. Whether you disbanded the Inquisition or gave it back to the Chantry in Inquisition, who you romanced, and you can customize your Inquisitor to look like he or she did in the in Inquisition, and those do impact game content here. Now, a lot of people were disappointed about those were the only options that mattered. It's okay. I was a little disappointed about certain things, but I did find it meaty enough, it meaningful enough, and it's far away enough from Kirkwall and Ferelden that it kind of makes sense that some of the other characters wouldn't be involved. You gotta read the codexes, be prepared to read, to get everything, because they're full of Easter eggs. The pickups, you'll notice in this playthrough, I am looting a lot. That is because there is loot everywhere, there are Easter eggs everywhere. There's even an Elden Ring player message Easter egg that made me laugh, and I had to explain it to a few friends of mine who hadn't played Elden Ring. But yeah, it's a very full game. And one of the mechanics that they don't explain well, so I'm going to explain to you here, is faction loyalty. You can build faction loyalty one of 2 ways. Either sell valuables or do missions. Now, watch who you're selling your valuables to. Because I was just thoughtlessly doing it for the money, and I wasn't paying attention to the rankings, and I kind of assed it up. You can mess up. You can get characters killed. You can wipe out entire factions. The ending is long, and it is harrowing, and it is exciting, and it is good. The game just keeps getting better. As rough as the start was for me with the Veil Jumpers, or as I started calling them, the Veil Jumpers, because the actress playing Rook had a Scottish accent, and so it was Jumpers all the time. But that's okay. That's okay. Now, I played as a non-binary character the first time around just to see how it went. And this is not an in-depth dig into that. This is an actual review in terms of how it played. A hot take, some of the non-binary dialogue options are clunky as crap to the point that I was offended in the "is this what people think I am" lecture-y and preachy kind of way. However, they are very optional. You are not forced into them. You don't have to take them. And if you compare that, clunky as shit, to the way they handle the whole thing with Tasha's journey. Again, I'll talk more about that. But I do want to say the people that have really taken a reductive take on Tosh and that character, don't listen to them. Like I said, every character is nuanced. Forget what you've seen in streams. Forget what you've seen in chatter. This is a game that you play for the experience, if you like making challenging choices, and it's a good game for people who just like the story. You can play a story mode, though they better watch it, because you got to know your party members' combat strengths and weaknesses by the end. But if you want a combat challenge, like action combat challenge, it is there. This was my second playthrough. My first time through, like taking out bosses, and I was way under leveled for those fights. Like I said, recommended 20. I was going in there at 17 or 18, and it was tough, but it was like Elden Ring tough, and I've platinumed Elden Ring, so I was like smoking through the game. Didn't die very often, only when like I got stupid or lazy. But cranking up the difficulty, it's a challenge. I was really impressed by it's like, okay, this game is making me sweat. And that's not something you can get from a streamer going through the game on story mode just to make haha funny snark comments, right? These puzzles here, I found them a bit okay, that's a choice. What I did find, though, is that it gives you a bit of a clue who the ideal people to play a particular part of a level are. Don't do what I did and just solve every puzzle you can find when you come across it without waiting for the prompt from the game. You can break your playthrough. I did. Don't do it. Wait for the prompt. Wait for the character to go, hey, come with me to do this thing. Because otherwise, yeah, you miss a lot of stuff, and it can jank the ending a little. Yeah, not just a little, though. Just a little. But yeah, don't spend a lot of time loot hunting. If something seems like it's really hard to get, go back later, with some exceptions. The ossuary that I'm playing through now is an exception, kind of. There are other places you only go through once, but those are in the minority. Most of the places you can go through and pick up stuff, and there are opportunities to pick up if there's say a piece of armor that you haven't fully leveled because you haven't picked it up. There is a place to buy it. Now, the game economy will challenge you. You're not going to be flush with gold by the end. You have to make choices. You have to balance. Now, again, that may be because I'm playing on harder difficulties. But still, you see all the codex here. Oh my god, so much reading, but it's worth it. It's really well done. The art is stunning. It is a total package experience. I was, okay, this is fun despite the shitty dialogue writing off the top, but by the end, it's just, you're invested. You're in, it's good, you like them, they feel like people. Some of the choices I felt were overthought a bit, but I'd rather a writing team try too hard than get lazy and go, whatever, our players are stupid and only want shit. The things I thought were mistakes did come from a good place. Yes, I researched some of that, so I didn't talk up my ass here. But I do think that the changing of the guard that happened in this game with some longtime writers, well, leaving after this game, so we'll see what that's felt if there's another Dragon Age game. But some of the longtime management leaving and making the way for new blood based on what they ended up making after 2 false starts, I think turned out to be a good thing. Sometimes they never get the old magic back. Other times people come in and get a new set of eyes who still love it and are still excited to be there. And I definitely get the sense that there is excitement to be here in this game. And again, you're not going to be smacked in the face with too much preachy content. Obviously, there are some things because it's a fantasy game and emotions run high. And some of it is like, now I'm somebody who likes fantasy racism. I like the, oh, elves are this and dwarves are, and because to me, I think it helps bring back, like contextualize bigotries and prejudice in the real world. Some people don't. Some people get triggered by that stuff. They don't like to encounter it. I'm not one of those people. Also, there, are certain races. The Ravani basically wear metal bikinis the whole game. So that's back too. Certain things are redesigned and they do a narrative reason for that. So some of those things that are lacking in the game before they've smoothed over it bothered me less here. I was one of those people who really missed the desire demons when they took them out in Inquisition, because I felt like it was one of the few feminine representations with the Fade demons, and it was now gone, so everything was sort of male coded, and I didn't like that. So they've tweaked it, they've sort of fixed it. David Gator grumbled online, but the thing about these stories, these properties, is they are really collective experiences. And one of the things I thought was really good, and I haven't seen this anywhere and people are probably going to get mad at me for it, I really did think that some of the commentary on people being helpful in terms of, oh, find yourself, trust your feelings, all that stuff. There's codec entries with Tosh where helpful people are confusing the crap out of them, and that was as good as the some of the non-binary dialogue options for Rook were bloody awful. And other people might disagree. Other people might say, no, this dialogue reflects their experience. It really was like a gut punch sickening, this is why people can't stand us moment for me. But they went away fairly quickly. And overall stuff like that is well handled. The Black Elf thing with Davrin is very well handled because there's no, slavery exists among elves in this game, in this franchise, but the subtleties in Davrin's character, I think a lot of people missed as well, including maybe some of the writers in the game. But this fight here that we're coming up on, this shows you kind of how much the game makes you sweat on harder difficulties. And I really, really, really want to stress the gameplay in this review, because not everybody's gonna love story, right? The story is just going to be different things, hit different people different ways. No game is for everyone, but this fight here shows you some of the tactics and some of the challenge. So even if you're not one of these story-driven players, if you want an actual, like, strategic challenge in a video game, play Veilguard, crank up the difficulty. Again, this is the second highest. There's nightmare mode as well. I actually found the parry windows too forgiving on lower difficulties. I actually found that the difficulty 4, the one below nightmare, was perfect for me because I could actually make the parries freaking work. It was the warning for it was so like, here it comes on lower difficulties that I had trouble actually knowing when to hit the button because of the twitch reflexes. But yeah, this was, see, I'm getting my ass handed to me here, but I'm pulling it out, and I had to think and I had to react, and I am actually saying that the combat is actively good in a Dragon Age game. Praise the maker, right? Like, oh my god, they finally did it. And it does take a bit. Experimenting with different playstyles, with different gear sets. The autosaves are in good places. So, this is a Pride Demon, by the way. Pride Demon design. All the demons have slightly different names. They've really expanded the demon repertoire. Yeah, mixing and matching playstyles, building something customized for how you like to play. One of the things I experimented with a lot was how much damage versus how much stagger build to use. And in the harder difficulties, some fights are better with higher stagger. This one definitely is. You know, working the combos, working the defense, working the offense. This was a fun fight. And I kind of blazed through it the first time around on a lower difficulty. So feeling the difference was definitely something. That's another thing I probably should say if you're still with me. Devote a lot of time to this because Dragon Age the Veilguard is a game designed to be played twice. Going back and replaying early levels with knowledge of what happens in the story is very cool. Also seeing how different it is. Little things like, okay, I played as a, you know, elf with really, really nice hair the first time through. This time I'm playing as a Kunari, and instead of helmets, the Kunari get face paint called Vitar because they have horns. Helmets aren't going to fit on their head. The fact that they bothered to do that and didn't just have the horn sticking through the helmet is a real indication of the attention to detail that the Dragon Age the Veilguard team brought to these proceedings. There's other little things. The music, the score, apparently it's Hans Zimmer. I didn't check that out. Somebody told me that. But it's really good. The score is really good. It really adds to things. It is emotional, but it's not in the way. The callbacks to previous games are there. It's made you feel like with a lot of love, and even though it has a more modern sentiment in places than our My Bag and locks the playable character, locks Rook to a younger person than I am, which were temporary bummers. You can tell this was made with love, and that's a nitpick because I'm one of those people who want in-game words for things. You know, like, they keep referring to the team, and I'm like, no, it should be a fellowship or something. Like, team is just too urban, corporate, but I know a fraction of people are gonna have those quibbles. I just like language in in fantasy games to reflect the world. So perhaps that criticism I just gave was Vashidon, right? That's the Kunari word for crap. See, it's still there. And that's the thing. They did create a game with broad appeal, and it's really easy to look around the stuff that you don't like. It can be avoided. And again, that's why I think a lot of the criticisms of this game are unfair. You don't want a character with top surgery scars. Don't have one. You know? You don't want lecturing on non-binary. Don't play that way. It's your game to play. And I'm gonna switch back now for summary. That was cool. The people who are flipping out about the social content in this game are not treating it like a game. They're treating it like a story based on playthroughs that people have no control over the content they access. And that's not how the Veilguard works. I'm one of those people who normally are like, I want somebody to give me their vision and I am going to submit to their vision. Elden Ring, Bloodborne, okay? You have to just accept the pain. But this game, unless you don't like good people, if you want an edgelord experience, this really isn't it. Go play Baldur's Gate 3. It's great for that, right? This is a story of good people fighting evil. Now, it's different kinds of good, right? And what you think is good is going to be different than what someone else thinks is good. We had a lot of debates on the Discord about certain choices, and they were really good conversations. They didn't turn toxic. It was, I made this choice because, well, this other person made another choice because, and it all made sense. And that is a good game. Now, it will gut you in places. It's not one of those games that you can just like hero run it and be awesome. But most of the hurt the player moments do not feel cheap. Emphasis on most. But again, if it's a game that if people want to play for the story, it's there as long as you like high fantasy, right? But if it's a game you want to play as a game, we finally have a Dragon Age game that you're not just suffering through the combat to get to the story. And this is thrilling. And yes, it's God of War meets Mass Effect meets Elden Ring. But you know what? God of War meets Mass Effect meets Elden Ring is kind of a new idea, and I like it. I'm much happier with them ripping off God of War and Elden Ring. They're not ripping off Mass Effect because that's a BioWare game. But, you know, borrowing from Elden Ring and God of War is much better than the Skyrim shit that Inquisition did. There's enough breadth it added to go, okay, let's put more action combat in. And I do miss the larger parties. I go all the way back to, I miss the 6-party game in Baldur's Gate. Okay, I still miss the bigger parties. And so at first I was super bummed that I could only pick 2. And you're going to be super bummed and you're going to want to keep mixing up the team because all the little character interactions, they make friends, they bond relationships with each other, they have conversations, they do things that you can experience. They really feel like people. And every so often it gets a little bit janky there, but overall they've done a really, really solid job, both as a video game, but also as an interactive narrative. Like, really, really, really well done. No game is perfect, but the Veilguard is really, really well done. So I was skeptical, BioWare. I was going in like, this game is not for me. I'm not excited. You left me behind at Inquisition. Fuck you. You got me back. Well done. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. If you like reviews like this, Patreon, it helps a lot. It allows me to take days off every once in a while. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. There's a lot of need right now. Coffee.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching and hope you like this gameplay video. Going back old school. Take care.